It's about Tony and Brian, as the title would suggest, and how Tony is going to try to adopt the kid. You know, one of those classic comedy one-off episodes about adopting children out of foster care.
Is that a thing?
Welcome back to another episode of The Rank. I'm John, and today we're going to be ranking the next episode of Taxi. Now, for those of you who are new to the show, I'm just going to go over the agenda real quick. First, we start with the potent notables, which are just a couple interesting facts or tidbits that I found out about the episode or series. Then I go into the episode overview, which is just me talking about everything that happened in the episode from beginning to end. And then I do the rank, where I rank the episode in 5 categories on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, all to figure out what is the best sitcom of all time. Now, today we're going to be ranking the 16th episode of the second season of Taxi, titled Tony and Brian, written by Ken Eston and directed by Jimmy Burrows. Now, this series is like 45 years old. It's available on Paramount Plus. If you're worried about spoilers, you should watch it beforehand because I will be doing spoilers here. So without further ado, let's start it off here with the potent notables.
Potent notables.
Now, I mentioned this on the last episode of Taxi, but Brian Sims was portrayed by Mark Anthony Danza, Tony Danza's real-life son, with Rhonda Yeoman. And even though it's strongly implied that Tony adopts him after all, Brian is never seen or spoken of again. So that's fun. Anyway, those are the potent notables. Let's go to the episode overview. We open up with Bobby coming into the garage, happy about a review his play just got in the paper. He hands it to Alex and Elaine, and they start reading it, and it's an awful review. They don't really understand why he's so happy until he directs them to the part where the reviewer says that Bobby was the bright spot and he was a good actor. I mean, I get why that would make him happy. You can't really blame him for seeing the bright side on that. But this episode isn't going to be about Bobby or Bobby's play. Oh no, it's about Tony and Brian, as the title would suggest, and how Tony is going to try to adopt the kid. You know, one of those classic comedy one-off episodes about adopting children out of foster care.
Is that a thing?
Now, if you've seen my rankings of these Taxi episodes before, you know I think they tend to get too serious, and this storyline is ripe for that same critique. And by the end, it'll have that critique, but for the first 20 minutes of the episode, it's actually pretty good. Brian, the kid, talks about trying to lure a rich family to adopt him. Now, did they mention in the last episode that he was in foster care? Because I missed it. I don't remember that at all. But I guess he's in foster care, and he's also not in a wheelchair anymore. So I guess my comment last time about the kid moving his legs at the end of the show while he was in the wheelchair didn't really matter anyway. Well, Tony talking about how he doesn't understand how the kid hasn't gotten adopted yet prompts the inevitable question from his workmates, why don't you adopt him? I'm not really sure how they don't see that that's a bad idea, but okay. Now, Tony's ready to ask Brian if Brian wants Tony to adopt him, and wouldn't you know it, Brian actually ends up having a rich family prospect on the hook, so Tony chickens out on asking him. Well, this is going to get Alex all charged up and ranting about capitalism. Yes, I realize he didn't actually say capitalism, but come on, that's what he's talking about. But also, why are you getting so charged up over a kid, man? Well, he's gonna hype Tony up into going to the rich family's house and convincing Brian to let Tony adopt him. And because Alex needs to be a part of every storyline, Tony asks Alex to come with him. Now, when Tony finally tells Brian that he wants to adopt him, Brian says, what kind of choice is this for an 8-year-old? Now, the joke was that he's actually 9, which was cute, but he's right. Why are we putting so much on this poor kid? He ends up staying with the money, and who can blame him? That's a much easier life. So poor, sad, dejected Tony is left in his apartment, which is freaking huge, by the way, all alone playing solitaire until suddenly Brian arrives. He's got a suitcase and he's putting away his clothes because he's choosing Tony after all. But Tony finds out that he didn't really choose him. He just came here because the rich family didn't want to adopt him after all. So Tony is going to then complain to the kid, the 9-year-old, how he's not going to be sloppy seconds or whatever. What? Then he tells the kid to pack his stuff back up and get out. What in the world is happening here? This is after the kid tells him he loves him, by the way. Don't worry though, because they're going to play a game of high card to decide if he's going to stay. If the kid wins, he gets to stay. And if Tony wins, he doesn't. That's fair, right? No, it's not fucking fair. Then Tony wins the high card, but says, that means I get to keep you. Which I begrudgingly admit got me teared up. But I was so angry with Tony's reaction to this kid up until then. I know, it's just a sitcom, but damn man, what the hell? Anyway, will this ending skew my rankings? Let's find out. Let's go to the rank.
Outweigh.
So the rank is where I rank the episode based on 5 categories: story, acting, dialogue, episode coherence, and character relatability. I rank it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. And then I have a laugh counter where I tally up the amount of times the episode made me laugh out loud. 1 point per laugh out loud gets added to the score. But before I dive into the rankings, I just want to say if you're enjoying this episode, please leave a like down below. It really does help me out. But without further ado, let's dive in here. First category is story, which I gave a 4. This is a good story. A little on the strange side in that Tony really shouldn't be adopting anyone, in my opinion. But hey, they've clearly got a bond, and it's also nice knowing that it's his son in real life. So let's go to acting, which I gave a 3.25. Tony Danza's son is fine throughout, except for one really horrendous scene with another kid named Tommy, where he's terrible. But everyone else is pretty good. I liked this being a Tony-centric episode, and we got to see more of Tony Danza's abilities. I thought he did really well. I mean, not like the best ever, but really good. All right, so let's go to dialogue, which I gave a 3.5. It was decently funny and enjoyable throughout most of it. Of course, they went too somber, as they are wont to do in this show, though. I think it was a pretty enjoyable episode until the end when Tony makes some horrendous choices with this poor kid. So let's go to episode coherence, which he gave a 2.5. The coherence of this episode from beginning to end is good. The characters feel true to the series, but this is not how adoptions work. And I know that's obvious, but you don't just get to decide that you're adopting a kid and then be like, you want to be my kid? Okay, that's fine. Time for you to move in. Just very silly and unrealistic. All right, so let's go to character relatability, which I gave a 2. This probably wouldn't have been this low until the very end with how completely unrelatable Tony is as a human being in this moment. Really, you're punishing the kid with not having a home? That's the punishment, by the way, because he didn't choose your broke ass first. You tried to swoop in, man. Just, I don't even care about the rest of it. That shit bothered me. All right, so it does look like it did affect the score a little bit, especially in the character relatability portion. But if it got a decent enough laugh counter, it might still pull it up. And actually, it is a really decent laugh counter. It got me 14 times. Unfortunately, the grand total was a 29.25, which makes it a mediocre, just 0.75 points below, and I'd watch it again. And maybe that's where it should be. You can tell me in the comments, maybe I got this one wrong. Maybe I ranked it too soon after I was frustrated by Tony's reaction. Who knows? Anyway, as for the series average, it's at a 25.4, which keeps it as mediocre. So thanks for listening and or watching. If you'd like to see a list of our episode and series rankings, you can do that on our website at therankpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe, review, and comment, and please consider supporting us on our Patreon site at patreon.com/therankpodcast, where you can get access to all of our archived episodes. Also, remember, please like the episode down below if you enjoyed it, but I will leave you with this. You know, Tony said that when he argues with Brian, Brian always outwits him. So this leads me to the obvious question. Who's the boss?
This is a good one. This is a good one.
So we open up with Bobby coming into the garage, happy about a review his play just got. Cut! So we open up with Bobby coming into the garage, happy about a play, or fucking motherfucker.
Language.